Hey guys, welcome to Perillian Peak Zone. This is part 4 of Sonic after the sequel, and I'm just mesmerized by this rolling magic. I love rolling around in classic Sonic games. One of my favorite things about them. But anyway, back to the actual, platforming bits. And here's one of the things I just had to show off as soon as I realized it was here. Yeah, isn't it just convenient that we get to see all sorts of cool, crazy things in the stages we play as Tails? Yeah, it's like all the odd stages are just right for Sonic, all the even stages are just right for Tails. Especially this one, as we'll see. This stage is, well, it gets to be pretty unbearable later on if you're not playing as Tails. Like, the first act is okay, but the second act, and in some parts the third act, they just kind of drive me crazy. You'll see. I mean, my opinion of this game has generally been like, it's okay, it's alright. It's a pretty cool zone, pretty good level design. Yeah, that's like how I've been talking about every level so far. But this is the one of the few cases, the other kind of sort of being Sugar Splash Zone, where I would say the level design actually gets pretty bad. Now this first act is okay. This act is fun. I wish the whole zone was like this act, but whatever, you'll see how it gets pretty cringe-worthy later on. Anyway, this is Tails' curry power. How convenient that he turns blue as Sonic turns yellowish orange. I just think it's a pretty neat touch. And yeah, there are these giant dinosaur bandits in the background. Holy crap! They're just massive. That's like the main feature of this place. They could have just made an ice level, but no, they decided to put a city in it. And it's a city run by Robotnik apparently, because there are giant bandits here. So yeah, even though it's a nice level trope, it's still pretty unique. It's just that they do manage to make a lot of really unique places in this game. It's just, like, the way I see it, it's okay to make an ice level and a fire level and so on, but you gotta throw something in there that makes it different from every other fire or ice level. And as far as an ice level... Hello? As far as an ice level goes, look at his face. This is a pretty swollen. Get it back. Huh. Anyway, this is a very nice act. One of my favorite things about it is the music. I know I've been saying I love the music so much, but I really do. The thing that these guys understood is that while the final zone of a game is really important, the second to last zone is also important. The penultimate stage in any game is really important because you gotta have like a period of relaxation or just hyping you up for the final level to prepare you for that last go. It can't be like the final level just appears out of nowhere. You gotta have a nice, easy period beforehand. And that's what this stage is. Or at least what it tries to be. This tune right here is great. Oh yeah, I'm not sure you can do this in stage select, but at least in story mode, if you make it through a stage with a power-up like this, or a shield, you get to use that in the next stage, as long as you don't get hit. Anyway, this is a pretty nice zone. The music is a bit toned down. It's like, my favorite version of this track is in Act 1. But this one is pretty swell too. This tune has a lot of personality. And... like this soundtrack, it's just got so many things I love. Like the spirit of Sonic CD, Sonic Adventure, even a little bit like Sonic Adventure 2. There's just so many cool things that are in there. And it's just great to see it in a classic game. Now, this level, this act, this is where it gets kind of crazy. I can't really point out any particular bits. You'll see them as we come to them. But this is at a point where I say the level design actually does get to be pretty bad. It's still a good game in general. And even then, this zone isn't always that bad. But if I was playing as Sonic, I would be pretty frustrated. Because there are some points where he just has the hardest time getting around some of these obstacles. He can't just whiz over and through everything like Tails can. And, like, I'm gonna say right now, this is probably the worst zone in the game. Aside from Act 1. But it's okay for me to say something like that because that just means that this entire game is full of really, really, really good zones. Some of them are bound to be better than others, which means one of them is bound to be worse than the others, and that just happens to be this zone in my opinion. It's not nearly as glitchy as Sugar Splash, but you'll see in some ways it is actually more frustrating. But it's still an okay zone. I was still able to breeze through it with relative ease as Tails. But just know that if I was playing as Sonic, this part would probably wind up being longer and more frustrating. This music is just so pleasant. It's just so stimulating, so nice, so cool, so jive. And I love these visuals. I love how soft the sun just barely coming up in the background is. That's something I really like about this, the storytelling. It's kind of a simple story, but I like the sense of time that there is, because you start in the middle of the day at the beginning of the game, then for a few stages it's like nighttime, and then, you know, now it's going to be the next day, the dawn of the second day. And even then, even though most of these zones took place at night, this night looks different than, you know, the backgrounds of the last few stages. Red Hot Ride had a different sky, Moon Mansion had a different sky, Techno Tree had a different sky, and call it inconsistent or whatever you want, but it just gave these zones more of their own feel. They didn't just copy and paste the same starry sky on every single stage. They made a background for every stage that complemented the foreground, and it's what's made this experience so fresh. It's constantly changing, and it's just so cool, just so nice. Like, it never really gets old. And, like, even an act like this, or Act 3 that can be pretty frustrating, they're usually over pretty quickly. It's just that you're going to see places like this would be so hard to make it through as Sonic, especially because of that slope right there that would make him, you know, move to the left more when he's trying to go right. Yeah. It's like, this zone isn't really challenging, it's just kind of dickish, because look, when I'm playing as Tails, even though I'm purposefully letting things like this get to me, I can still make it through relatively easily. And, well, it's just very hard to explain. Challenge comes from something that's challenging. You know, you gotta use skill to get around certain things like this. But when you've got the crazy ice physics on the ground and the bumpers and everything, and you're just being flung this way and that way, it isn't really so much a matter of skill getting around all these things. It is a matter of luck. And that's bad level design, when it's chock full of things that are screwing the player over left and right, and there just isn't much they can do about it. Then that kind of disempowers the player, and to me, that's just bad level design. I don't want to piss anybody off, you know, I still think this is an okay zone, it's just not perfect. It's the worst zone in the game, but that doesn't mean it's bad, because most of these zones are great. Anyway, I still love Act 1, it's just the other acts that kind of sort of drag on. Anyway, this act is pretty unique. Now it's like really is daytime again, got this beautiful bright sun. And one thing I love about this that I didn't quite mention in the second act was how, as you go further along, the buildings seem more distant, and you can see more of the curve of this mountain, you can see more of the slope. It conveys that we're getting higher up. Even the dinosaur thing in the background looks smaller. And I just like that sense of progression. Because even though this is a 2D game, even though it isn't 3D, you can still make a sense of mass and distance and all that. You can still make a sense of there being a world around you. And I like that we're getting further away from the city. We're getting higher up the mountain. We can see more of the world, you know, and it's just swell. Anyway, this stage is a pretty unique gimmick. It's still got all the bumpers and the ice and just everything from the previous two acts piled on top of each other, along with new things, all culminating in this. It's like being in a. Just so much random shit going on. But anyway, one gimmick I do think is pretty cool about this act is that there are these sleds. When Sonic is riding on them, he's just crouching and holding onto one end. Tails is just laying down his belly, and it's just hilarious to see. I like that they give the characters these touches that make it so that they each have their own flavor, their own way of doing things. They could have just as easily copied and pasted Sonic or Tails just sitting on these things, but nope, Lake Flipper just went the extra mile to give them more personality, and that's just great. I love how as you get higher up, you can see more of these clouds. Again, it's just like it's just everything is changing constantly. It feels a lot like what I liked about Sonic before the sequel. Only, you know, the zones are more vibrant and more diverse and everything. So yeah, it's a pretty cool act. One thing I love is the architecture. It's like even as we're getting higher, these places are just getting weirder. Like the walls are kind of copied and pasted a few thousand times like you'd expect in a Sonic game. But you got these weird windows that are like frozen and these weird orbs and just everything. It's like, I don't know, I wouldn't say this is like where all the rich people of this city live or whatever, but you get the feeling that we're seeing just more weird, avant-garde looking stuff. And it just adds more personality to this place. Like I said, it's not just a nice level. It's just that there's so much going on. It is a pretty unique zone. It's just that for me it's kind of a cluster effort. But anyway, we're getting pretty close to the end of this stage, this act. And you're gonna see something that is like the main distinguishing feature of it. By the way, where's that yellow, I mean that orange Plesiosaur Badnik gone to? Not Plesiosaur, Brachiosaur, whatever. Where's that Badnik gone? Now, here's something that I think doesn't really make sense about this zone when we'll come to the next act. We saw the orange one in Act 1, so you'd think that if we just keep going, that means we've left him pretty far behind us by now. Yet, the next act kind of contradicts that. Whatever, you'll see. We're nearly there. We're at the foot of the mountain. We gotta get to the top and destroy the ring of the Dark Lord and all that and... whatever. That's strange. So yeah, I guess the orange Bandit followed us here. Not really sure why. We passed him a while ago, but I guess he just managed to catch up to us in that cutscene. Anyway, this is a pretty cool section right here. This is the beginning of a boss fight. We're just jumping all the way to the top. This doesn't go on forever. It's not like you gotta do something whenever you see the purple one's face in the background. You just gotta keep jumping along these platforms for a while, and when you reach the top, that's when the next phase begins. This is a crazy long platforming section. And yeah, I'm not flying as Tails in this part. I'm trying to do it legit. I'm not sure that anything happens if you take too long down here. Maybe you're hurt by those explosions, those really big round ones, if you happen to be there at the time. But you don't have to worry about the whole place collapsing. At least I don't think you do. As you can see, it's getting pretty crazy. One thing I love is how the music is timed to finish, like just as you reach the top. That is brilliant. So, apparently, by hitting that switch, we have taken control of that Bandit. And this is the fight. It's like giant rock'em sock'em robots. And this is just great. Sega, we want more of this. Or at least I want more of this. I want creative boss fights. You don't need to have like a bunch of characters that feel like they were taken out of Skylanders. You can still have Robotnik robots, but you can still put new spins on them. You know, there's always ideas for crazy new things. I mean, look at what's happening. Would you ever imagine something like this would happen in a classic Sonic game? No. And that makes it cool. It makes it fun. It's just something new and crazy. Yeah, Robotnik, he's not going to let us make it to the top of that mountain. Anyway, you just got to make Robotnik hit all 5 of these nodes. You know, every time you trick him into hitting one, it damages the other Bandit, and the game's kind of glitching out here. I admit I was worried for a few seconds that I would have to start the recording again. But it looks like that Bandit came through for us. Sorry I didn't explain much about how that boss worked in time. But yeah, basically, like from what you saw there, you just gotta trick Robotnik into shocking all of those nodes, and that'll, that's basically it. Yeah, just the fact that this thing is orange is another reason I thought this would be a fitting stage to play as Tails. Anyway, this is where things get really crazy, and where you see another of Sonic Heroes' many influences on the settings of this game. It's time for the final zone, the Storm Station. This thing is lifted off the ground or whatever. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of losing track of thought because I'm really hyped up for the next zone. You'll see next time, Part 9, Storm Station Zone. Toodles, guys.